Welcome to another episode of Motivate to Millions podcast. I am your host, Quentin Baker. Today is going to be a very good topic. I think is a needed topic. I think for educational purposes, for something that all deals with us, which is money. Money we all obtain to live either comfortable or rich, or whatever that definition of rich or comfortable is for you. Today we're going to be using a lot of reference points from the book. If you haven't heard of it before, I don't know how you haven't, but if you haven't, phenomenal book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. So we're going to be pulling some points out of there, pulling some talking points, just like this book is phenomenal. So let's dive right in. Today I'm going to start with our motivational minute, which is me giving you a quote that I feel like is very key to the day. And this quote comes from the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And it says, "The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them." Let me say that again. The poor and the middle class work for money, and the rich have money work for them. This quote alone can be controversial for some people, but it is very true no matter how you look at it. Reason being, while most of us dread Mondays, there's somebody that is excited for Mondays because they know that the amount of money that they have circulating and moving and working for them, that Monday is like the start of the train of like their money working for them 10x. So for for most of us, we still clock in, work a 9 to 5. And a lot of us dread Mondays. Let's be honest. A lot of us dread Mondays and we love Fridays. So nothing's wrong with a 9 to 5 per se. But even if you don't desire to be at the 9 to 5 the rest of your 20, 30 years, maybe you want to do an early retirement. But bottom line is, whether you work the 9 to 5 or not, which most do, the proper way to work the 9 to 5 is making sure that even as you're earning money, working for someone else or exchanging time for money, that you should have some money working for you externally, whether it be passive, XYZ investments. Money should always be working for you externally if you are on a 9 to 5. So I think that quote is essential. I know sometimes it can be controversial for some people, but it's the truth. You have to learn how to get money to work for you and not just work for it. So moving forward to our next segment, which is It's Debatable. So, and you all can comment and share what you think about this. It's debatable that the one I picked, again, this book is so powerful. I can reference a lot of things, so I am. And this is saying that there is a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary. Poor is eternal. What do you think about that? Let me read it again. There's a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary and poor is eternal. What do you think about that? For me, that's why I picked this topic. It's debatable. I know this is debatable because some people may not see that. But to be honest, just to shed some light on it, poor. So let me do, as my wife says, the sandwich method. Let me start with the positive. So being broke, a lot of us have reached that phase in our life where we hit hardships, life hits us. and we feel like we're broke. We're working for bills. It's just like we're exchanging our time for money just to give the money back to someone else. I know how that feels. Because I know how that feels, I see how it's very easy to stay there without the right fundamentals, education from others, mentorship, and then some self-education, putting some skin in the game. So you can be broke per se, and you're literally just working, paying bills, working, paying bills. And it just doesn't seem like there's no out. A lot of people refer to it as the rat race. Because you become the hamster on the wheel that can't get out. You feel trapped. You are trapped because there's no out. There's nothing else working for you. Going back to the quote, there's no external money working for you in your favor to get out, or at least have an option. So, but however, the poor person has accepted there's no other way. The poor person doesn't care about financial education, doesn't care about getting better, they just don't care. One of the things I had heard recently, I think I was watching Shannon Sharp and Ocho Cinco Nightcap. And I heard this and it changed. It was so phenomenal because it's true. Takers don't have a limit. So you must have a limit. That's what I mean. A taker is a poor person. They take, they consume, but they never invest. Not just money, but they never even invest in themselves. They're okay with the conditions that they live in. They're okay with the just getting by lifestyle. They don't want anything else. And to my people that are disabled and things have happened, that's a different story. But those that are willing, able bodies that can work, make those choices to really elevate, that's that poor person. And I have learned that you can't change a poor person. You will burn yourself out, make yourself tired, exhaust yourself trying to change a poor person, a person with a poor mindset. They don't want anything else. A broke person, you can talk with them. They have an open ear to listen to you. They are willing. Most are. They want something different. So that alone is the gap that you meet them in, is because they want a way out. They want a opportunity to see something different, experience something different. Poor, you just can't. You just can't you can't put your energy and time into them. And it's more than monetary. Like, money is half the battle. A lot of it's just pure mentality and mindset. So keep that in mind as you go on your journey. I hope I'm speaking to those that are looking to elevate, whether you are finding yourself in a broke season. Hear this good. There'll be some peaks and valleys in success. There'll be some peaks and valleys in entrepreneurship, whatever career you may be in, whether you are working a 9 to 5 and you do decide to do something on the side, a side hustle or actual just full out business, and you literally have that money working for you, there's still going to be some peaks and valleys. So you have to learn how to roll with the punches and grow from the wounds. So as we go forward today, we're going to pull out some points. Our first point today is that, matter of fact, let's just go here. Let's do this. Let's go to chapter 1 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and just kind of shed some light on that. Chapter 1, the author introduces his two fathers, his actual father, Poor Dad, and his best friend's father, Rich Dad, and explains the difference in their mindset towards money. Rich Dad teaches the importance of financial education and acquiring assets, and Poor Dad focuses on traditional education and job security. I love chapter 1 alone is going to captivate you. If you haven't read this book, I'm reading this book for the second time. I'm going back through it. This is a book that I feel like you can go back over and over again every so often when you feel like you may need it, or some people every year. You never know. Sometimes you read something one time and you get some points out of it, but then the next time you read it, you're like, oh my God, I didn't see it from that perspective at that time. But nevertheless, you know, him highlighting his rich dad versus his poor dad, which the rich dad was an external, extended father of his best friend. So as I hear that, I think about there's so many people we meet in a lifetime, some service in one capacity and some service in the other, and it's all for our good. The reason I say this is because in the book, Robert Kiyosaki learns from his rich dad, even though he thinks from a traditional aspect of traditional education and job security, he's learning the what not to do if you really want to excel in life and not be so dependent on government and be so dependent. But however, his rich dad teaches him the fundamentals, the steps, the mindset that you have to have in order to succeed and not to fall trap into the system. Because ultimately it's the system. The system is created for us really not to win unless we think outside the box. We're willing to invest in ourselves, invest in our education outside of just a university or a college, like literally reading the books. Even when it comes to going to college, like being strategic. Don't just go to college just because you feel like, hey, I can get a good job in this and that's it. Make sure you actually have something that you can offer in this field, that you actually even like this field, before you go spending thousands and thousands of dollars on education for something you don't even have an interest in, but you just feel like you can make a living. Of course, that's the traditional status quo of what we may have grew up with, is get a good education, get a job, you'll have job security. Well, guess what? You don't. If you look at the market today, we do not have per se job security. That is a fairy tale. That's almost imaginary, because companies are not as loyal as they used to be when my parents were growing up and my grandparents were coming along. They're not as loyal. They don't have those incentives like they used to. So it's really not job security. That's why I said in the beginning, as I refer back to that, you have to make sure, even if you work a 9 to 5, figure out a way that you can make money outside of your 9 to 5 and let that money work for you. Let the money work 9 to 5 while you're at work from 9 to 5. So, you could think about this book. Of course, the rich dad teaches him so many principles about money, about work, about learning, skill. However, you may think that the poor dad didn't teach him anything. However, he did. The poor dad taught him what not to do, or what not to consume, so that you won't become so dependent on other people. And when you look around, anybody can be let go at any time. One thing I say about when you resign from a job, typically we give what? A 2 weeks notice. Most people it's common courtesy to give a 2 weeks notice also to make sure you get those if you have any benefits. Not only that, it's respectable. However, when you are terminated or laid off, they don't per se give you a 2 weeks notice. They just give you notice. Hey, either the company's not doing well, we can't afford to keep you on board at this time. Hey, maybe you have a day or two left. It's not guaranteed you're going to get a 2 weeks notice. Let alone if you are fired, it's definitely not a 2 weeks notice. Sometimes it's on, as the conversation is going, you are fired. I've seen this happen right in front of me before. And they don't care about your bills going on. You got children, you got a wife to support, you got a family. That's irrelevant at that point. So if you don't have anything outside, you're kind of like winging it. So the poor dad, even though he had a good education, he had a good, quote unquote, good job, he never made enough money per se. And that's the other point about this book, is that most people, it's never enough, because your money is taxed so hard. Most people really feel like they work harder than what their money is working for them when they work a traditional job. And that creates this mental positioning of it's never enough money. This is not enough. It's never enough. I don't care how many raises you get. As inflation happens, as the economy changes, it's never enough. It has to either be enough in your mind, or you need to reposition to do something different. Hence why I go back to the same point. Make sure your money is working externally outside of the normal traditional job. So, moving right along to the next chapter. This book is so deep, I won't cover too much, but the rich don't work for money. Rich Dad explains the importance of financial independence and not rely solely on a paycheck. Again, we just kind of covered that. You're one decision away from potentially being homeless if that's all you have. And most people, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, one decision could bring down the whole tower. One decision, one wrong move, and the whole tower, the whole structure of how you take care of yourself, feed yourself, take care of your home, provide, could be dismantled in one day. So you got to learn financial literacy, financial independence, and not solely relying on that paycheck. Next is the author learns the concept of making money work for him through investments and passive income. Well, I like this part because I can kind of explain this real quick. Investments, typically we think of stocks, bonds, and even having some type of investment in stocks, bonds, but just generally having shares in other people's company. Hey, they had the vision, they had the idea. We just want to support them and also make some dividends from supporting them. That's essentially the investment side, which I think is very good for those who work 9 to 5s, because that money is, again, working for you. But if you want to take it a step further, passive income. Passive income, I would say, is more like your best example I can give you, any type of vending machine. Let's just say most of us have been in an airport, and you go through the airport. Let's say I did this one time so I can speak about it, is I left my charger home. So I had no choice. I left my charger, I left my headphones. I just was not prepared on this trip. So because they had a vending kiosk in the airport, I bought a charger and a headphone, because at that time, it was in high demand. I needed it. So again, somebody has something that you have to offer. Why not create passive income? Now, that person that owns that machine was not there. The machine is a self-service machine. So again, that is your money working for you while you are at work. That's just a good example I felt like I could share with you. As we dive a little bit deeper, I wanted to go through some questions that was in the book. I won't keep going through all the chapters, but I wanted to hit some questions, just kind of some food for thought, which was the number one question was, do you know extremely talented people who make very little money? What could they be doing differently? So I know some people that I feel personally, whether they have received it or accepted it in their mindset, I feel like I know quite a few, some geniuses, just some smart people. I know some very intellectual people. I mean, are just great wordsmiths, but nobody will ever really pay them what they're truly worth. And the point of that question, I just feel like you have to know your worth, understand it, and then figure out how you can diversify yourself. So let's just say, let me use myself as an example. I'm an insurance agent, and mainly I sell auto insurance. So I do a lot of talking each day. I'm presenting. I have to really learn just so many things in sales that you learn. But no one particularly is going to pay me for how good I am. I mean, they'll compensate me, but I don't feel that I am truly getting my true worth. When I add the numbers up, when I do the math, I'm not getting my true worth. So no matter how good you are, sometimes some people will just, if you're especially more so in a 9 to 5 and you don't set your own rate, you're not going to really get your whole worth. You'll get a percentage, more than likely a small percentage, but you won't get your true worth. So that's kind of what that question derives from, and just some highlights from that. Number two, how have you sought additional skills beyond your specialty? Like this question for me, and that's why I like this. I love interactive books because they make you think. So again, let me use myself for example. I am an insurance sales agent that sells auto insurance. They're not going to most people, let me say that most people, not all companies, not all employers, but most employers are not going to say, hey, Quentin, you should take an additional sales course, or you should take public speaking, or you should take this course on sales verbal cues. They're not going to say that. As long as you're meeting your numbers, getting your metrics, you're making your sales, you're meeting their quota, that's it. And as long as you meet their quota and you never set a quota for yourself, then there's a problem. There's a problem of lack of personal development. And that's what I feel like this question is more so gearing to: personal development. I've taken public speaking classes before. I've taken additional classes, coaching, you name it, just some things outside of this position that ultimately still make up for communication, sales, things that still transferable in that role. So you got to expand yourself beyond just what you do on a day-to-day basis and build your skill set, build your resume even while you're working, not just having to put that job down, but making sure that you can put the things that you have poured into yourself, that you have took initiative and done outside of your role. So the other one is, bear with me. I'm literally coming straight from the book. I'm doing it old school today. Let's see, which one do we want to go? As I'm reading, I'm just, man, thinking about how deep this book is. If you haven't got this book, you gotta get this book. I'm gonna put the link below for this book. You can get this on Amazon, as well as Audible. I like both. Sometimes I like to read as well as drive, and I like to be on the move or walking and still get my book in. So here's a question. Robert says that it is not so much the lack of technical information that holds us back, but more the lack of self-confidence. So in the book, he also says, what is an example in your life or someone else where self-doubt got in the way of a great opportunity? Essentially, it's not, and I have been through this myself, it's not that we have an information problem. It's not that we don't know what to do. It's just that our faith tank is a little low. So we need a little bit more faith to build that confidence and know that you are capable. You are more than capable. You are more than qualified. But if you don't believe it, how do you think someone else can perceive that you're qualified? So confidence is a major key in anything you do. And I think that you have to, 9 to 5s to me are good training grounds. They are like boot camp for the real world, boot camp for life, because you're going to learn so much in a 9 to 5 that you can deploy into business. You can deploy into your investments. You can deploy into your passive income thought process. So it's the training grounds for something much bigger for those that think above just working to work, and that's it. So next question is, some people have a lot of money but do not get ahead financially. What is that? Why is that? Well, I'm speaking from my own personal opinion and my own journey, just thinking back and reflecting, it's the amount of money. There are some people that you would consider that are rich. They make a lot of money, but they don't get ahead. Let's just use an example. You may make $45,000 and they may make $145,000, 6 figures. And you're like, man, if I had that, I could do very well for myself. However, most people, and I can attest to this has been me, and I have had to learn from it. I have had to have some big setbacks that I haven't even shared publicly before when it comes to finances, that the more you make oftentimes, the more you want. So because you got a raise of $20,000, you went and bought a $40,000 car because now you feel like you can afford it. You had a house that was nice, and now you got a bigger house that's triple what you were paying because, hey, you got a raise. You feel like, hey, I can afford it. Yeah, you can. But now you go right back to the same position of living paycheck to paycheck. just at a higher level. So the only change was your money, but not your mind. Whew. Again, the only thing changed was your money, but not your mind. And that can have you, as the question said, how can someone make more money and still not get ahead? Basically, that's why. Your money changes, but your mind doesn't. When your money changes, your mind must change. Your mindset, how you approach things, your perspective. I look at everything on a percentage. I've learned to look at everything on a percentage scale. If you make 150, 45,000, your bill shouldn't add up to 145,000 or 150, sometimes more than what you actually even make. So, essentially, as I get ready to close out, my final thoughts. My final thoughts are to you that may be watching this and listening to this, and you just feel like you can't get ahead. I understand you. I understand where you are. I understand how difficult it can be. But there's one word you have to there's two words. You're going to have to be very resilient and very determined. Going back to that broke person versus poor person. Poor people don't really change. Broke people have a desire to want better. So for you, please don't give up, don't give in, get more strategic, get focused, invest your time into yourself, educationally, learning skills, learning in your craft, perfecting your craft, and then also learning how to get that money working for you while you're at work. Today, I know typically I'm speaking to business owners and entrepreneurs, but we got to be honest. The road is narrow for entrepreneurship. It's narrow because not a lot of people choose it. And there's a reason. It's harder. It can be as hard as you make it, per se. It's not easy by no means. It's not an easier out. But it can be very rewarding. And for those that are very strategic, they will have some amazing futures and be able to, number one, leave a legacy and pass down money. I'm a firm believer that our children, our family members, after we're long gone, and even after we're long gone, they should not have to start from zero, but also while we're here, we should be able to bond and fellowship and have those moments and memories with them without financial stress and distress all the time. Financial stress will take you out. I know. So get more strategic. Figure out what way can you get that money working for you. Even if it's just the extra $200, how can you get it working for you? What can you invest in? For the business owner, entrepreneur, this is one piece of advice I want to leave with you. Don't get too comfortable. Never stop being a student. Always be learning. Always be learning. Sometimes we get too comfortable as a business owner or entrepreneur, and that's where we begin to make mishaps, make mistakes. So don't get too comfortable. Don't get complacent. And lastly, you are more than capable. If you think about it this way, you clock in more than likely every day. You give it your all. You give it your all and then some. Most of us are not willing to do the same for ourselves. Whether that's taking the night classes, taking the extra courses, getting the certifications, putting the time in to just learn the craft, reading the books, not even taking courses, just the simple stuff, reading the books. I mean, in our society today, they make it so easy for you. We have Audible. One guy, I can't think his last name right now, but he's an influencer and also just a big guy that has really taken off. And I've looked at his success along the way from afar, his name is Nehemiah. He's a entrepreneur that's very influential. And looking at his journey, one of the things he shared, I think I was in a master class, was that if you feel like you're broke, or you feel like you're working paycheck to paycheck, and you feel like you're in that rat race, you that hamster that's just rolling around on that wheel, then you shouldn't be listening to music. Or if you do listen to music, it should be very little. Your car should be your university. Your car should be your university, because you need to always be learning. You need to be learning, how can I get out of this broke stage of my life? And whether it's podcasts, whether it's books, audibles, that needs to be the intent while you're driving in the vehicle. And you're maximizing that time. You know, if you drive, let's say 30 minutes one way and 30 minutes back from your job every day, that's an hour of education that you gain. Now, if you do that 5 days a week, that's 5 hours of education, personal development that you've gained in a week. Now, if you do that every week for that month, you would most likely have about 20 hours of PD, which is personal development, and education. That's what I mean by investing in yourself. So I hope that this episode was impactful, that it encourages you to assess and look at your life, look at what are you doing now, what do you want to be doing, what's your financial goals, and just some real game changers to help your perspective grow in the area of money and finance. So I'm going to leave that link below for the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Go get you a copy, read it, let me know your thoughts, share if you have any questions, or you have just some thoughts that you want to talk about. Reach out to us, DM us at We Motivate to Millions on Instagram, or you can email us at wemotivatetomillions@gmail.com. This has been an amazing episode. I look forward to digging a little bit deeper into this book. Please share your comments, what your thoughts are, how has this helped you today? And if you are not already, please like, subscribe, and follow. Thank you for tuning in today. This is another episode of Motivate to Millions podcast. Peace.